So today I thought I'd do something different, which is a sit-down video. So I hope you like it. I also have some notes here that I'll be looking at, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It's all about how to find your own art style. So my first tip is to experiment, especially in the beginning, because you need to try out different techniques, different methods, different mediums, find out what you like, what you don't like, and really work on them and see what you create out of them. I think it's so important to expand your mind and not only be fixated on, I like this style, I'm going to recreate this. To create something that's completely yours, I think you need to have an influence of various stuff. My tip number 2 is to analyze your own work. So when you're actually creating, you need to see, what do I like, what do I don't like, and understand why. Because everybody can look at a painting or whatever it is and be like, I don't like it, but really understanding why takes you to another level, because then you know, okay, I'm not gonna do this. I don't like this color combination. I'm not gonna do this next time, but I really like this about what I did here. I really like how I did the eyes, or how I did the outline, or how I did the background, or whatever. So then you can take that with you to the next one. If you don't stop and analyze your work in that way, then you're just stuck recreating stuff and you're not actually being present in the moment. You're not actually analyzing and seeing, yeah, what kind of value it has and what you can take forward. They started construction work outside here, so I hope you don't hear it too well, but yeah, let's continue. So tip number 3 is to analyze other people's work, which is a relatively easy thing to do because you have so many great artists out there who has written books, that have been on television, that have interviews, that you have so many photos. And naturally, it's easy to find inspiration from other people, and you should gather them and save them. For example, on Instagram, I like to save certain paintings that I'm like, wow, this is really great, and maybe I won't take inspiration from them. Maybe it's just a lovely picture, but sometimes I'm like, I really like the technique, or I really like this color palette. Sometimes I even save pictures of photos that have a certain color palette or a certain type of contrast, and understanding why you like it and why you don't. It's so important. And obviously never take too much from any artist. It's so important to create something that's completely yours. So don't ever copy somebody's work and say that it's your own. We are all influenced by each other and influenced by everything else that exists out in the world, and that's a natural thing, and that also comes with the experience we've had. But then you can't take somebody's story and somebody's work and somebody's technique and completely copy them just because they're doing good, and expect that you'll be doing good because of that, because that comes more from an ego state rather than the joy of creating, because you're expecting a certain type of audience reaction because you created something that's already popular rather than to create something that's uniquely yours. Okay, so we have tip number 4, which is to find inspiration in everything. So find inspiration when you're having a walk in nature, in certain, patterns or textures in nature, or if you're looking at a movie and seeing how they used color in that scene, or how they place the person within the frame, or looking at music videos, or just pictures and photography, or just music in general. There's so many things to gain inspiration from your interactions, from how you see other people interact with the world and with themselves and with you. So last year I published this coloring book called Women of the World, inspired by 15 indigenous cultures, illustrated with the women from those cultures. So you see the map on one side, and then you see the illustrated woman on the other side. And it's created so that it's suitable both for kids and also for adults to be used as a kind of meditation and also a way to learn about different cultures. When I was researching for this book, I definitely learned so much about different cultures around the world, and I find it really interesting to see just the different way that they express themselves in their clothing, in their hair, and their jewelries, and also how similar some of them could be as well. Even though they express themselves differently, they could have similar features in the way they elongated their necks or the way they used beads in their hair, although they're in completely different parts of the world. So I found that to be very beautiful, and I had such a great time creating the book. And yeah, I just wanted to remind you of it. Now it's available on Amazon, and also you can also download the digital version if you prefer to color in on an iPad. And yeah, I'll leave the link down below. So the next tip is to don't limit yourself. So it basically talks about not getting too comfortable. It's important to continuously go out of your comfort zone, especially when you have something that does work for you and that you feel like you're getting positive reactions from. I think it's so important to test things out, and especially for yourself. And you don't always need to share everything you're creating as well if you don't feel like it. But it's so important to not get stuck in this comfortable bubble, and then you're not expanding as an artist, you're not going beyond the boundaries that you could do, and you never know what can happen in the other side of the comfort zone when you just try different things or try a different color palette or a different way of expressing yourself. It's super important to, don't limit yourself. So tip number 6 is to create when you don't feel like creating. A lot of people think that you create only when you get, this beautiful light of inspiration and drive and this fiery energy inside you that it just has to get expressed in some kind of way, but often it's not really like that. And often you come up with ideas when you are creating and just starting something, even though it's small or it's not going to go anywhere. It's so important to just get you in that mindset of creation, and when you're doing one thing, you naturally start to visualize new things to do. So create when you don't feel like creating, and you'll see that so many doors will open for you, because then you're already in that state of creation, and a lot of beautiful things can come out of that. If you're just sitting there and doing other things, waiting for inspiration to hit you, then many times it won't, because you're doing something else, your headspace is somewhere else. So it's important to not limit yourself in that way, and also be disciplined in your practice, because in the end, your perseverance is what's going to take you somewhere into finding your own style. Tip number 7 is to write down ideas when you get them, because a lot of times, as I was saying, you need to have your eyes open and look for inspiration everywhere, and when it actually hits you and you're not there to draw or do whatever creative things you're doing, you need to find a way to save that idea, because it might not come back, and that's the truth of it. And it is proven that if we write something down, we're more likely to remember it. So maybe you don't even need to go back to that note, but writing it down will definitely help a lot. So what I usually do is I open up the note app in my phone and I write ideas down when I have them, and then I store them somewhere else in a more organized system later. Or I have a small notebook where I can draw a quick idea or write down the idea so that I can look at it later. And often when I sit down to create something, I end up looking at these ideas if I'm feeling stuck or if I don't remember the ideas. So I only remember the outline of them, but I don't remember the details of what I wanted to create. And I'm like, oh, that was great. I'm definitely going to do that right now. And a lot of ideas are also not going to get created at all, and that's okay too. But at least having the options and seeing them there is so important, because that also saves you so much time than to just sit there and wait for an idea to come to you while you're sitting and preparing to create. It's just so practical to already have ideas that you were very passionate about in that moment that you can create now that you actually have time for it. I hope you got something out of these 7 tips to find your own art style. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Also, if you're in the Barcelona area, next week I'm gonna be hosting a workshop where we'll be painting the illustrations from the Woman of the World coloring book. We'll be painting them in A3 sizes with watercolor paper and watercolor, so feel free to join that if you're in the area. If not, I'll see you in the next video. Until next time.